All right. Welcome back to Spooky Saturday, everybody. You're here with Hannah and Chubbs. Today, we're taking a look at the Rocky Horror Picture Show and shock treatment, the connections between and the fun within. And, we'll give our general thoughts, but we're going to show our love for the movies and what's great about them. So, before we kick into the info, when was the first time you think you saw it?
The first time I saw
Either
Rocky
one.
Horror, like okay, um, I was like 3. That's just
Okay.
like when my mom showed it to me. But I saw the VH1 version where it's like kind of edited, where like some of the dirty parts
Yeah.
were cut out, so it was a little bit more innocent. But either way, I kind of think a little kid's not gonna understand it anyways. Really, like even if everything,
No.
like they're not gonna get it. It was just a fun like musical, And when I was little, I would sing the songs and stuff. And I would just play outside, and I don't know. I liked it. I don't know. Thought it was cool.
No. That's cool. Um, we had one theater out here when I was growing up. Old school. It was very old. It had like the ushers, and still had ushers that took your ticket in the front and the big lights. And on Fridays, on one Friday was Rocky Horror. The next Friday was Faces of Death, and it was all midnight shows. And my sister would go to the Rocky Horror, and I go to Faces of Death. And then she invited me, and I got to see the show. And that was where the people participated and got up and acted out the whole thing. So first time I saw it, I was maybe 10, and loved it. I was like, oh, this is great. And it was even better because I saw it with everybody joining in. So I was like, wow. And then, yeah, the next weekend they did Faces of Death, which was crazy. But yeah, they only had one theater that did it, and nobody else really even did midnight showings back then. So that was the first experience for me. Like, so have you been there to a live show with participation?
No, but I know like they throw the rice and they get the water pistols, and I know I know what they do. My mom was really into that stuff, and she told me about all the cool stuff they do. I think she went and saw it.
Did they have a place that even showed it when you were like
My
even in
mom,
high school?
well, no, I mean I don't remember. Well, maybe I just never
Mm.
really looked into it. Like the more I think about it, I
Well,
never
no,
really.
it's not big everywhere. So if it wasn't big there, you had no choice. But they had a big enough audience here. But like I said, one theater, so we got lucky. We even had that. But
Yeah, I mean, but my mom and dad like they traveled a lot before I was born and stuff. So they went and saw. I mean, they went to New Orleans all the time, and they would go to California. Like they like went places. I never really went anywhere except Memphis. Like I haven't really been around like different places.
okay. Well, do they have any? Do they show it anywhere now? Where you're at?
Um, I think they do at the Civic Center. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they do because they do everything there. And I live in sort of like real country,
Rural.
real, yeah, kind of country place where it still can be like a bit weird to people here. Even like 2020, people don't fully feel comfortable with some of the
Ah,
sexuality stuff. I don't know. It's just
no.
kind of a thing.
We have the Decadence Festival here, so anything goes. But honestly, I don't think they show the movie itself anywhere I've ever heard. Now the play came around every once in a blue moon, but that's about it. So how let's take a look at this. Let me get my little light so I can see my notes here. Now it actually started in 72, 73 as a stage show just called the Rocky Horror Show.
Hmm.
And that had Tim Curry, Nell Campbell, and Patricia Quinn, who went on to do the actual show,
Yeah,
or the
it's
movie,
yeah,
excuse me, the movie.
written by
Um,
Richard O'Brien.
Richard O'Brien, who played Riff Raff, wrote the screenplay for the movie, wrote the stage show, and he handed the duties to Jim Sherman, who they they did both movies we're talking about tonight. Here's some fun facts. Our main players, our main act, the main characters in these both movies are named Janet and Brad. And for Brad, Steve Martin and Mick Jagger were up for the role,
Hmm.
but Tim Curry did such a good job. They stuck with him, and I personally think that was a great idea because he knocks it out of the park. But trying to imagine those people in those roles, I think is funny because you're like, oh, okay. Steve Martin, especially like Mick Jagger, I can see, but not Steve Martin. But um, so that was they crossed the three main people over. So we have Tim Curry, who played Frankenfurter. He's the most known visually. You can see him in his fishnet stockings, and his crazy hair. And if anybody happens to not know who he is, he was in movies such as Clue and The Congo and voice. He does voice acting from
Any
Ben 10 to
Pennywise,
Star Wars.
any
But
Pennywise.
yeah, I didn't actually write that down, but yeah, he went on to do probably the best version of Pennywise.
Hmm.
The remake was okay of that, but
No,
um,
Tim Curry the best.
he did it, and he was also in the movie Legend, where he plays a Satan-looking character just called the Darkness. But
Hmm.
that and Clue are my favorite roles for him. Um, and
He's very diverse and like talented.
yeah, because like he we see him acting and everything, but he can sing and dance. He doesn't do it that often, but he's very versatile. Even if anybody, I don't know if you remember the movie Oscar with Sylvester Stallone, but he was in that movie and he played a very interesting character. Um, Now, in the Rocky Horror, they got Susan Sarandon to play Janet. She was in such things as Thelma and Louise and Dead Man Walking, among a million others. And make sure I say this right, Barry Bostwick, who played Brad. He could be seen up till he was in Free from Hell recently. But
Oh, he was in that. I didn't get to see that yet.
I forgot which role he played but he's actually a great character actor. He was in a million TV shows and such. You can see him if you saw a picture of him. He's very instantaneous to know. Um, by the way, people who were considering to be in the movie in any role, but mostly probably Brad, Elvis Presley for Brad, and Vincent Price wanted to be the Doctor. And those didn't pan out, obviously. But those would have been an interesting, especially Elvis, because he obviously can sing. So I found that interesting.
Well, even Vincent Price is that'd be kind of cool too, though.
Well, no, he would have fit as the Doctor, of course, but he was in so many horror movies back then. He was in Hammer movie, and he did the original Last House on the Left. We'll have to get into those one day. And to round out the main cast, you have Patricia Quinn as Magenta, Nell Campbell as Columbia, Peter Hinwood as Rocky Horror himself, and not a long he didn't have a big role, but Meatloaf played Eddie, the ex-delivery driver. So, and by the way, in some of the stage shows after the movie came out, Meatloaf played Frankenfurter for a time or two. So there's pictures of that if you look it up, and I think that's kind of neat. He jumped around to play that role because he can sing, obviously, but
Hmm.
he did good. Now, just to just to give the briefest summary I can, I've been thinking of how to do this. Okay, uh, this is the both movies roundup. You got Rocky Horror and Shock Treatment. So your two main characters, Brad and Janet, when you first see them, they get engaged at somebody else's wedding. They get a flat tire in the middle of nowhere. The first house they go to is Frankenfurter's house. You find out that he is a now I'm gonna he is a transsexual from the planet Transylvania. So There, he's an alien. I mean, they don't. I don't think they ever outright say it. But he says he's from another planet. Um, in the first movie, it's basically their love is being tested. Now this is spoilers, by the way. We're just going to straight spoil because we want to talk about it. But both Brad and Janet cheat on each other. Brad goes with Frankenfurter, and Janet goes with
Rocky.
Rocky. Thank you. I was drew a quick blank on that one, and that's that's the main like plot. Then the B plot is he wants to Brad just wants to use the phone. He's like, I just want to use your phone. But he's and then Frankenfurter's like, but I built this person. I want you to come see this human I made. And then they go and in a Frankensteinian moment, you get Rocky. And it's funny that he's the name of the movie, but it's really about Tim Curry's Frankenfurter. Two quick things. You know how they have the the grandfather clock in the movie with a skeleton in it?
Hmm.
It was a real skeleton they bought.
Oh, like from medical place or something?
I don't remember where they said they bought it, but that's something they were like they wanted to make it real, so they bought a real skeleton. And the tank that Frankenfurter was made in came from, I think it was the Hammer horror movies, Frankenstein. So it was made in another real movie about Frankenstein. But so you have some real props, real sets. Um, as the couple is torn apart, um, Meatloaf as Eddie, the delivery driver, pops up, and you see a scar across his head to show he's kind of Frankenstein in himself. And you get the main murder in the movie because people call it a horror movie
Well,
um, because Frankenfurter kills him viciously, and otherwise there's just scary moments. But there's your actual
I don't know if
murder.
a lot of people realize that like the reason why Meatloaf has a scar on his head is because Frankenfurter took half of his brain and put it in Rocky's.
Right.
Like I don't know, like if people know that's kind of the deal with him. And Frankenfurter was he wasn't too happy about the way that Rocky turned out because Rocky ended up being a straight heterosexual guy. And he's like, he's just like Eddie. I didn't want him to be like this. And he just wasn't really into him. So that was like sort of, disappointment that I don't know if a lot of people caught. You know,
Yeah.
because you know
A lot of
he.
stuff go fly by if you're not listening.
Well, yeah, but
But
I noticed that like Rocky was just like interested in the girls, and like Frankenfurter was really upset about that.
right now, just to do the quick jump here, um, the main part that brings Rocky Horror into Shock Treatment is in Shock Treatment. It's Brad and Janet again. They're married, but and this is a quick summary, but they go to a town called Dentonville, which is basically it's in a a TV studio. It's a good look at reality TV of its finest. You find out that Brad has an evil twin brother named Farley Flavors, who makes Janet a star, imprisons Brad, and then his goal is to break them apart. And I'll just say we'll leave it at that for the moment. But like that's your all around thing because a lot of the main actors, you get Magenta and Columbia, but they come back as different characters in Shock Treatment. But it's the same actors. Even Riff Raff, he's not the same character,
Hmm.
but he plays the main doctor in that one. But I think both movies are kind of in itself a show on real life, like the troubles of being married and being unsure, then being married and being unhappy, and then like the temptations that come therein. And it was groundbreaking for its time to show, uh, a man dressed as a woman who wanted to be with men, and because now people think, oh, that's nothing, but back then that was something. And then the couple cheating on each other, and Brad he cheated with a man, and you couldn't do that nowadays. And some of the people dropped out. Like I think Elvis was one of them, where he didn't like the homosexual connections in the movie, but they also didn't know what it was going to look like in the end. So you can take that how you want it. But to me, that's the grand scale. It's like both movies are about this couple, what they're going through, and you know, one movie's about being unsure, seeing these different forms of how life can go, and the second one is how bad life could be, even if you get everything you wanted, or like actually, the Shock Treatment's a good show on things nowadays like materialism, and like he sings songs about blenders and refrigerators. Like I think
Oh,
that's the funniest song, and I like talking about a
yeah,
blender.
Blender.
Yeah, it's like toaster, and it's like, what are they going for? But I enjoy that because, like I said, I think it's look at now how reality TV is and the way people act, and they kind of foresee it. But the whole the whole Shock Treatment took place as a whole inside the TV studio show. They go on a game show off the bat, and so it's just what was it called, like Marriage Maze, and I, I, I think that's funny. I think
Well, are we on Shock Treatment, or are we just kind of just talking about
both.
everything?
I wrapped it up as both because it's
Okay.
technically to me one story, so you can go
Okay.
wherever you like.
So, one thing I noticed about Shock Treatment is like that everybody in Denton, like they were really maybe like overly conservative or something, or I don't know how to explain it. Like they're just really they don't feel comfortable with anybody that's different. They want everybody to be sort of like the same thing. Like the same in a way. Um,
Hmm.
and and like I said, I kind of grown up around that myself. Where you kind of have to be a certain way, or else people aren't going to accept you. And that's what that movie showed. It showed like how annoying people could be. How they try to put their ideas on people. He
Yeah.
said something like, "Oh, when or like men need to be men and stuff," and like he just kept kind of bashing like all these more sensitive guys.
Oh, the guy who dresses like a general and
Yeah, and he's all
that
like,
guy.
"I'm glad I'm a man," and like,
Right. He literally says like no homosexuals, but I think everybody can relate to trying to fit in, how to fit in, like the things we have to deal with now. Just to capitalize on that, um, the game show was called Marriage Maze. Brad is imprisoned on a soap opera taking place in Dentonville, which centers on a mental hospital run by the brother and sister Cosmo and National or Nation McKinley, who is O'Brien and Patricia.
mhm.
They, by the way, fun fact: they planned to film Shock Treatment outside, going in and out the town, but the Screen Actors Guild had a strike at the time, so they built everything inside, and that's why they're not outside. But they wanted to film outside, so I thought that was interesting.
Well,
So
I noticed Patricia and Richard, they played brother and sister in the other movie, and then they played
yeah,
brother and sister. And there's always like a weird sexual thing, so that's always something I always kind of thought was creepy. How
they
they add the incest thing in
they
both. Like,
don't say it. Yeah, they don't say it out loud, but it's implied that they
well, they're always
love each other.
it's like they're too close for brother and sister. Like
Yeah.
they're always up on each other. And you could tell what's going on. Like, and then they're in a bedroom or whatever, and she's wearing like lingerie. Like that's, I mean, we know what's gonna happen. It's just kind of
Yeah,
weird.
I don't think they even say the word like incest or like they say "I love you" to each other, but it's mixed in the songs, and then if you listen to the way they word it, and honestly, I don't think you needed that in the movie because it doesn't add to the story or the
No,
theme.
I think
Like
maybe they should have just not been brother and sister, and they could have been a couple. That would have.
right,
I don't know why. I feel like they with Rocky Horror and like Shock Treatment, they wanted to make it like weird, but then they kind of. I just feel like that was the one thing I didn't really like. I guess you know.
mm,
I don't mind like the gay stuff and stuff. It's just like I feel like they should have brought incest with it because it's like we don't gotta have all the.
yeah, because if you're gonna look at it like it's good to bring the homosexual stuff out because they need to break the mold in the world where thinking
Yeah,
that's wrong, but
yeah, but
incest
like,
is wrong.
yeah, like when they put something that is like, yeah, like wrong, then it's gonna kind of give that a bad name. I guess. I don't know. I guess.
No, that aspect is very uncomfortable.
Yeah,
I,
it's like
you know,
if they brought like Beastie out, like it's like just don't bring all like the weird stuff. Just like the drag queen stuff, like that stuff's fine.
yeah.
Maybe people need to get more comfortable with it or whatever. So because people got killed and stuff over wearing what clothes they want to wear and stuff. I mean,
Speaking of the clothes, Susan Sarandon did almost the whole first movie, if you watch it, in her underwear, and she caught pneumonia on set because there's a lot of scenes where they're wet from the rain
oh
or
yeah,
whatnot, and she pushed through. And you can they said like in one of the scenes, she's shaking, and you're supposed to think they're cold, but she was sick, but she pushed through. And like, yes, I give her credit for doing a whole movie in her underwear because she wasn't a major star she is now back then, or even in the '90s. So I give her credit for that. For most of them for wearing what they did. Even Tim Curry, like he wasn't a big star back then, and he did it right. Like he said, I'm going to dress like this, and it really doesn't matter, and it didn't, and it shouldn't. And that's the one part I think I don't want them to ever remake it, but if they did today, they could do a really good aspect on that part of it. But in the end, he's an alien, so you know,
mhm. Well, also I don't know if you know this, but like 70s punk, they got their fashion from that movie actually. They came up with a lot of their fashion ideas. The Sex Pistols like stylist dressed them based on that movie.
yeah, there's images of like Tim Curry with a blue jean jacket with chains on it.
Yeah, studded like leather jackets and all that stuff that became like the punk stuff. And I guess you could really look at Rocky Horror. It is kind of a punk movie in like a lot of ways. It's
Yeah.
just about like being yourself and all that, and they all have like a punkness about them.
Oh yeah. It's awesome. And yeah, the woman you're talking about that took the fashion was looking at like the Sex Pistols and the Ramones, and so it makes sense and it fits. Like now some of the stuff, like a lot of the extras, you can see it in a lot in like the Time Warp song, obviously, but they're wearing maids outfits. So
Hmm.
that's not punk, but they were very low cut. But now, speaking of that, that's the most known song. Let's jump into Time Warp again. You know, there's if you watch it, there's a whole. They actually tell you how to do it in the movie. The guy pulls out the chart. You know, use your left leg and put your hands on your hips, and it's actually pretty good. But that's how it made it to where people acted it out in the movie theater because it's very descriptive and it's a lot of fun. I didn't
I'm
interact, but I've seen it, and
oh
it's
like
fun.
a lot of people play it at their weddings. They play it at parties. And
Hmm.
everybody gets drunk and they do the time warp. It's a thing.
I
It's just
still see people on Halloween in some of the outfits.
yeah.
You
I mean,
know,
I haven't ever did the time warp either, but I've seen some drunk people do it. It's a thing.
if I could find a place showing the movie now, I would participate, but I never hear of it, so
Yeah,
I keep looking.
yeah. No, I would be down to go. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe they did it when I was younger, but now that I'm older, I could probably I could go to something like that. Um,
They say the group that participates is either high school age or late 20s, early 30s age. So it's the people young enough to like think it's awesome and new, and the people who get it and say, "I remember doing it." So it's cool. I like that.
yeah. Did you know that Little Nell and Meatloaf they were actually dating at the time? Like they were like banging, and like
Really,
yeah, like in whenever he did the Hot but Shooty song, like you could see like that like they like really like each other because like they were actually like doing it and stuff.
so the chemistry was real.
Yeah, she's like, you could tell that I love him or whatever because I was
That's
saying.
awesome. No, that I didn't know about. That's cool.
Yeah, that's why. Like, and you do watch it, and you're kind of like, "Whoa, dude!" Like, because he's like helping her and stuff, and like it gets kind of crazy. But it's like, I mean, they were like a couple, so you know.
Okay. Next time I watch that, I'll
Oh,
pay more attention.
Barry Bostwick and Susan Sarandon were dating too during that.
That's yeah, I forgot to mention that. And obviously that didn't last, but
No, there's a lot of romance in that movie. There's
yeah, that always helps. These days people get together after they were in a movie together. Back then, like people were a couple, then go into a movie together. But um, it helps with the chemistry, and it's in the movie it's really easy to see, especially the main couple. But that's the major point of the second of shock treatment. Shock treatment is like now they recast. Obviously, it was Jessica Harper's Janet and what is it? McGilroy was his name. Um, because the other actors kind of took off after the first movie, but their adventure is okay. Yes, we're so in love, but what happens when materialism, fame, even drugs, because they give Brad while in prison sedatives, and they
mhm.
keep him, but it turns out it's all because he has a lost evil twin brother who wants Janet all for himself. So
Well, I do want to kind of I think that Jessica Harper is a better singer. I do like Susan Sarandon. I think she's very talented, but Jessica Harper is a better singer, I think. And Susan Sarandon even says, "I don't know how to sing. Like I'm not a good singer."
right,
You know,
she
she's an actress, or whatever. But Jessica Harper, she's like the triple threat or something. You know, she could do
yeah.
the acting, singing, dancing. She does like everything.
Oh, I'd love to see. I love to see. I guess in the multiverse way, like the first movie with Jessica Harper, because she does sing and dance. That's her thing. I'd love to see that. But
Hmm.
it's so Susan Sarandon is so iconic now that it'd be weird to not see her. But I would love to see that, and that's the problem where the second movie is a little I say a little bit weirder, which is odd to say given what we're talking about, but the way they set it up, like the first movie, it's a couple who finds a weird house with all this going on. The shock treatment is the whole town is in on it. They're in a movie studio, TV studio. Like Brad's in a mental institution, but that's part of another show that's a soap opera. Like it goes way too deep, and I think that's the problem where O'Brien, the writer, was like, I'm gonna really dig deep, and I don't think you have to. Like when you set it up and then let the actors show the importance. But um, now let me ask you this: do you find any um, songs in Shock Treatment good, just as worthy as Rocky Horror?
I kind of like the songs better, to be honest.
Okay.
That's just like my opinion. I sort of like favor Shock Treatment a little bit more, probably because I like the songs better and I like Jessica Harper and I just I like that Blender song.
Oh, it's hilarious. No, and I find Shock Treatment like even though the songs are about what's going on, you don't have like an actual dance number like compared to the time warp. And I guess because the first movie was, we're taking a play and putting it in a movie, and sometimes that doesn't always transfer great. Like something
Yeah,
like that where it's a song where we're teaching you how to do a dance and you get to see it probably is far better on stage than in a movie. But it worked out, and it happens to be the catchiest, so people know. But you're right, shock treatment. The songs are a little more upbeat, a little,
I feel like sort of like the music is a little better, but so like Rocky Horror probably has a better, like more interesting kind of story in a way. Like I
yeah.
feel like you kind of just should probably just watch both of them. They
Mm,
just they go together. Like they're completely different, but they just you kind of just need like both of them.
oh yeah, if you see Rocky Horror or have seen it and you haven't seen Shock Treatment, it's cool to see shock treatment because it's the continuing story of your main characters,
Hmm.
but it's not connected in any other real way. Like,
It's just like a musical, really, and stuff, and the songs are really catchy.
oh yeah,
Um, you need a bit of ooh, shock treatment.
that's right. That
Like,
main song is awesome.
they're just iconic and catchy. I'll actually listen to those music sometime from that movie, but I don't really sit around and listen to Rocky Horror songs or whatever. And I don't really want to like completely down all the. I just didn't feel like all the singers were as good either in Rocky Horror. I felt like Mary Bostwick was pretty good.
Yeah,
Little Neil, I like her, but Tim Curry, he was kind of like Tim Curry could sing, but he was being kind of more joking and like silly in that movie. And then Susan Sarandon
yeah.
can't sing at all. So you know, but
Yeah,
yeah,
Tim Curry, his voice is what sells it for me with him. The way he talks and accents words and like even if he didn't sing the whole movie, I like he's like, let's go upstairs, and he just kind of
he's like, "How
he
y'all doing?"
right the
Things
way
like
he presents himself. No, like it's catchy, and you don't have a main person like that in shock treatment. Like
he's so
there's a whole
nasally.
yeah, there's a whole host of people in shock treatment, but there's not one main person you get to identify with. Like you get to watch Frankenfurter, and it's about the couple, but you get to see him. It's his house. What's going on with him? Oh, he made a person. Oh, wow. And then his turmoil with his creation, and then the couple comes in. The second one is just here's the couple and what they're going through. Boom, and materialism and capitalism, and that's fine. But I I I actually would recommend at least watching Shock Treatment once if somebody hasn't to get the feel of like, oh, so that's where they went with it. Shock Treatment came out in '81, so it was a good 7 years later. So
Yeah. Um, I mean, yeah, I think everybody should like at least see shock treatment. A lot of people don't know about shock treatment. I didn't know about shock treatment till years later because of a roommate like showed that movie to me. He's like, "Oh, have you ever seen this movie?" I was like, "No, what the heck is that?" And he's like, "It's like a sequel to Rocky Horror." I'm like, "What are you talking about? Like, there's no sequel." And he's like, "Yeah, there
yeah.
is." And he's like, "I love it." And then yeah, like he showed it to me, and I still have like the copy of it. And I loved it. You know.
Well, one major reason for that is Shock Treatment didn't get a major film release. It came out as a midnight movie. Like they tried to do the same formula, but that's what kept it from the main public knowing it was even out there. Like I only found out early on because like my sister being older saw Rocky Horror first, knew about the other one because she did go to midnight shows. Other
Mhm.
than that, I wouldn't have known until I saw people review it in the last maybe decade. But yeah, it didn't get a full film release. It only came out at midnight shows. So you're talking like every Friday at midnight, people could see it. So it fell under the radar and then suffered budget wise. And so
Well,
it's good.
oh, the thing of my dad, he went and saw Rocky Horror Picture Show in the '70s, I think, and my dad was like, he's pretty young, and he's like, that was the weirdest movie I've ever seen. But he's like, I
Mm.
gotta see it again. So he saw it a couple of times, and then like he had a little sister or whatever, and he's like, you're not allowed to watch this movie or um. But he let me watch it when I was like 3, so I'm like, what the heck? How come back then it's like she's not allowed to watch it, but then you just like let me watch it as a little kid? He's like, times
Well,
were different back then.
true, but I guess at 3, like you said, you weren't going to get what they were even talking about. So
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
just catchy songs and bright pictures and colorful clothing. And
yeah, because it was like the early '90s and stuff when I saw it. 'Cause I was like, I was born then, so you know, I didn't really. I think things were different or something. People were well, maybe more open or something in the '90s. Things were changing, I guess.
yeah, the progressive world started to turn over. But let me tell you, you could take a movie like Grease. Grease, love it or hate it, is known at least by millions of people. In the last 20 years, I told people who go, "Oh, I love that," and I say, "Well, did you know this song's about pregnancy and this song's about sex?" And he says this word in that song, and nobody catches it half the time.
Oh, I
Like,
know what those songs are about.
no, I mean, I'm saying like there are people I run into who are like, "Oh, I love Grease," and I'll bring up the sexual innuendos, and they have no idea. They're like, "Oh, he says that in that song." I'm like, "Yes, he calls Grease Lightning a something wagon," and they're like, "Oh, did he really?" I'm like, "Yeah." And they go back and come back and go, "Yes, that song, that movie's all about like sex and pregnancy and you know getting chicks and like." So this movie, I feel Rocky Horror said, we're going to address these things off the bat. We're not going to be shy about it. Our main character is a transvestite, but he's from another planet that is Transylvania, sexually, charged. And it was out front. Like, you can't see the poster without seeing Tim Curry dressed like that and not go, oh, okay. But yeah, they were breaking molds back then, but it was probably really rough because the times people might think now, but no, something
Yeah.
like that had an uphill battle coming out way back then. But I give it credit for that, where they were trying to break the mold and the actors took it in stride. And, like Tim Curry had to wear heels and, his fishnet stockings. And by the way, I know you know this, but for the crowd, you always see a picture of lips on the poster, and the beginning of the movie is a pair of lips, and that is the actress in the movie Patricia who
hmm
plays. That's her, but it's not her speaking. I believe it's
It's
Tim
Richard.
Curry's voice.
No, it's Richard O'Brien.
Oh, it's Richard. Okay, I'm sorry,
And
but
the thing was that was the director's decision. He said, I want it to be kind of androgynous, and you have like a nice looking mouth. So like they used her mouth, and she had to mimic like Richard O'Brien, and she wanted to sing that song. That's the only reason why she wanted to do the movie was to sing that song. And then they're like, no, Richard's gonna sing it, and she's like, you bastard, like she's like so mad. Um, but there was something that pulled her back in. Oh, they took her to the set and she got to see like all the clothes and all that, and she's like, okay, I want to do the movie now, because she was like, I'm not doing it now. Just changed her mind because she's excited about trying on the outfits and stuff.
hey, it makes sense. I find that funny that like she talks about like if you watch it and you see it's his voice with her mouth, but both the girls have such high pitched voices. It's kind of neat. Like I don't think it didn't even seem like they could drop that low, but they're both great singers anyway, so it made sense. But
Well,
and she had to paint her face black. So
they wanted to make Columbia and Magenta. They wanted to make it like one character, but they
good job. I had that written down way low in my notes, but yeah, they had to break some of the characters apart to put them together. But you get that when you transfer movies from books to movies or plays to movies, where it couldn't fit another person or couldn't fit that storyline. You get it a lot, but I would love to have seen it the other way and see every character. But
yeah, but and Patricia, she like when they filmed like the mouth scene, like she said, whenever you sing, you kind of move around a lot. So they had to put her head in like this vice thing, and she just had to be like clamped in, and, like whatever, and like sing. But
yeah,
that was pretty wild. Like that must have been uncomfortable. You know.
yeah, but that's her lips being bitten when I like how it's her biting her lip and like I mean a lot of people who always think that's Tim Curry's mouth, but it's like no, actually that's
Oh, she
it's
was
such a
like
short scene. So
some reason like I don't. Well, maybe it's from Rocky Horror or something, but like they said that's the most iconic mouth or something in the world. Um, there's like her lips and stuff. Um, so
and
like
it's also based a little bit on the Rolling Stones mouth that they use
oh
as a they it's not directly like we're stealing it, but they're like we love that image, so they painted her face black with the red out the lips, and that's the poster with him sitting on it like a couch, and I
yeah,
think that's cool. So
they also like with the time warp they extended it to do little nails like tap dancing. because she's like a tap dancer.
Yeah, they wanted to fit that in because she's very good at that. Like, she's
Yeah, so
professional.
they made it longer just for that, and that was like Richard's idea because he saw her tap dancing. He's like amazed, so he's like, "Yeah, we have to put that in the movie."
I'm glad they did because it's awesome.
Yeah, I am too. That's a pretty iconic scene. I used to have like little action figures of Zarkor. My mom got
Really?
them for me when I was a kid. Yeah, there was like Riff Raff. I didn't have Riff Raff. I just had like I think Columbia. Which one's the one that we were talking about? The tap dancer, the Columbia Magenta.
I think that's Columbia.
Yeah, the one with the glittery outfit. Like, and then I had a Frankfurter like action figure, and I was like,
Now,
take
are you talking like a 6-inch GI Joe or like a Barbie size?
they were like little like action figure, like like molded hair and stuff. But
Hmm.
yeah, I would just like play with those like out public, which I don't know if my dad liked that, but I'll take those with me.
Well, if you still had them, they'd probably be worth a pretty penny, but
I
you never
don't.
know.
I don't know what happened to him. I think Frankfurter lost an arm, and then I don't know what happened to him. I didn't care about him after a while. Like, that's what little kids do. They're like, "This is so cool," and then you just kind of forget it.
Yeah, but that's awesome that they took the time to make those, and I'm sure there's versions out there today that better up to
Well,
date, if you will.
my dad used to kind of just buy me anything I wanted, and we went to this really. We'd go to this crazy toy store when I was a kid. It's called Toy Based In, and they had really unique toys like that. Just weird stuff that I never even seen, and that's where those dolls were. And they had this like 4 foot tall Mars Attack alien. You remember that movie Mars Attack? And I
Yeah.
was like begged my dad to get that for me, and it was like $500. He's like, "I'm not getting that for you." I was like, "Yeah, you have to. I want it." And he's like, "You won't even care about it in a week." I was thinking about that. I don't know. Popped in my head.
We'll have to, like you said, we'll do an Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Mars Attacks type show. I saw Mars Attacks in the theater. That has uh, Natalie Portman in it. That's great. With a whole, even Tom Jones, which is awesome. But yeah, I saw that in the theater.
Then it had Jack
But
Nicholson. I love Jack Nicholson.
in more than one or two roles. But and there's, I think that's actually based off of a comic book, which I think Max has. But we'll do that another time because that's a good
We are good. We are
section of movie.
friends.
Don't run, we are friends. That's awesome. And they win by yodeling, but yeah. So
Like
oh,
they don't like the country music
that was beyond country. Just
or whatever.
yo, yodeling is not that was a little bit different. Like that's like polka music type stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what people they sing that in the country though too. The Appalachians.
Oh, I mean, there's still yodeling contests and people who do that, but that's like saying bagpipes are the same as like the trumpets in a
Well,
concert band. That's
I'm just saying, I got like hillbilly family that lives in the Appalachians, and they do all the yodeling and the banjo playing. They
oh,
do
they
that
got
stuff. My
pe-
family's cotton pickers, dude. They work.
well, you can't do that down here. Picking cotton's kind of a no-no
No,
per se.
I'm saying
I know what you
my family were slaves and stuff back in the day, and they had to like they were cotton pickers and stuff.
Mine were fur trappers,
Oh,
and
really?
they out there they have people who play the spoons and whatever that instrument is you put in your mouth that goes boom, boom, but I forgot the name of it. But yeah, they play the spoons and the washboard, the Zydeco music.
Mhm.
People still use that washboard in which you used to wash your clothes on, but they still use that in bands and
Yeah, that's cool.
they make it work. Even Soundgarden had a song called Spoon Man. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think it's cool. I appreciate all types of music, except I don't
Hey,
like that. What is it? That weird kind of Jeffree Star type music. I don't really like that stuff that he does.
oh, I know what you're talking about. I don't even know if there's a name for that,
But there's a
but
bunch of bands that were kind of played off of his stuff, and they did it too, and I don't love it. It's kind of weird. It's not good. You got to stick to
no,
not the music.
I won't. I won't name any names, but there's a lot of YouTube people who got big on YouTube, thought they could do songs, and ended up not doing well music, and it's
Oh,
really weird. So
well,
I
Shane
don't want
Dawson did an album, but um,
to. Eh.
they didn't turn out that great. I mean, I kind of like it because it's Shane, but you know.
I heard some of that, but like that's a different story. He just got lucky in his stuff. But Jeffree Star, yeah, that's a little bit different. But
well,
but no,
um, well,
no,
Jeffree Star is very androgynous. We're talking about androgynous stuff right now. He's very much like a Frankfurter type of alien character himself. Really, if you look at him, um, you know.
yeah, he sticks to the like even James Charles, where it's like from the neck up, it's one thing, but only recently I noticed Jeffree Star really got big on like changing his fashion up,
Hmm.
and that's cool. You know, like I never seen him in straight up fishnets or anything. James Charles did the assless chaps, but you remember that
Yeah, him
in the
and
White House?
that was Manny MUA and him. They did that fashion show. Those clothes were bad. Look, I'm sorry, I didn't love them. And
Nah.
they weren't cute. Mm-mm.
But to bring it back, I will say again, like if people haven't watched this movie in a while, go
Well,
back and look at the fashion and go back and look at what they were trying to portray. Look at like yeah, Frankenfurter's one thing, but and Rocky himself is just wearing pretty much a speedo. And but
if you think about it, I just thought of something. If you think about it, if it wasn't for Rocky Horror, those guys probably wouldn't even be doing all that stuff now. If it wasn't for like people that broke the mold and made it
oh
more acceptable, then we thought Jeffrey
oh
Star probably wouldn't get to do all that. You
I
think about it,
know that
somebody had to
they
break the mold, you know?
they took a big chance back then, and I'm I for one am glad they did because you're talking 1974, that even 81 for the second one, but the second one they did skimpy outfits, but not like it wasn't too much cross dressing of any kind that I can remember. So I give a lot of props to Rocky Horror. And what's funny is over the years, the least thing brought up is people talking about like cross dressing. It's the cool songs and the the couple and the way they transform and dress up like him later on, and you know those are the things brought up. So it didn't just break a barrier, but it didn't make it to where people harp on that. And people who actually I know that don't like Rocky Horror, it's not even because of any of the innuendos in the movie. Like they're just not into that or something. So I think it's got a very good record, and that's what makes it the cult classic that it is today.
Mm-hmm. I
So
agree. Um, I agree with that. You know,
so let's give our little ratings to these movies. So let's start with Rocky Horror. What would you give it current as a current rating in your book?
as a current rating, am I rating just like the movie in a whole, or am I rating like?
Just no, just the movie, like nothing particular, but
Okay.
just the movie.
Um, I mean it's up there. Probably, maybe a 7.5.
That's my answer. You took mine, so we're
But
even. Mine was 7.5. Like, yeah, you could tweak a couple things, but given the time frame it was made, no need. Like, it fits, so it's not really bad. So yeah, mine was 7.5.
I mean, it's worth a watch. Like, there's a lot of
Oh
music.
yeah,
There's so much to see, and if it's a first time watching it, then it's gonna be really, might blow your mind. First time anybody's seen it, they're like, "Whoa, what was that?"
and if you
And
haven't seen it in a long time, definitely go back.
yeah, it's definitely a movie that people love to watch in October. So, around Halloween, people like to dress up all Frankie Freddy, and they watch the movie and they do the characters and stuff. it's fun, it's fun stuff.
All right, so let's move to shock treatment. What would be your rating for that?
Shock treatment. It might. Okay. Like I said, I feel like I just want to kind of say something before I give my. I feel like the movie itself, like the story it wasn't as good. It could be a drag or whatever, but the songs really pull me in, and I like Little Nail and stuff. I kind of just was kind of there for her and Jessica, um, and I like Richard O'Brien too.
Oh yeah,
It's gonna get a little like I'm gonna give it a 6.5. So it's gonna be a little bit lower because the story's a little bit more weak sauce, but the music is good and everybody did a good job. Like the performance was good. It just something didn't quite stick, and that's why I don't think it was successful.
yeah, okay. Um, I'm going to give it a six even. Um, I feel again they waited too long between movies to even like if they weren't continuing the Brad and Janet story, sure, but they were directly making it those two characters. So they waited a little too long, and the way they set it up too detailed about what's going on. Like it wasn't just they were filming a TV show or something. They were in the TV show and they were singing about the TV show. Like it was two separate, self-referential, and that brought it down a good bit. But it's to me, as you know, giving it a six because it's still above average. It's not a bad watch. It's you know something you can watch just to go, okay, I like that, I got it, and you may never watch it again, but it's worth watching at least once. And I watch people review it every now and again to see what people think and see how people's reactions change over the years. So overall, we've given these high marks for both movies. So if
Hmm.
anybody watching, our recommendation is check them out, and it's worth to watch. Come back anytime and tell us what you think if you want to tell us what you think about this movie.
Yeah, I definitely think they're both worth a watch. I feel like most people have seen Rocky Horror, but not a lot of people know about shock treatment though. I feel like that one's like still like really underground. I probably would have never known about it if it wasn't for my roommate, giving me the DVD or whatever. I would have never been able to watch it probably.
Yeah, I've seen people in the last one was in the last 2 years where somebody brought up shock treatment and said, "I bet y'all didn't know there was a sequel." That's right, and to this day, no, like it takes people bringing it to the masses to say,
Yeah.
"Hey, there is a sequel." So
Hmm.
people like us and people like that, we're trying to keep it alive, and so yeah.
Yeah, but the good thing about our channel is that we do new stuff and we do old stuff. We're pretty much open to all movies, and they don't have to be a certain genre either, Theater Thursday, like it could be anything really.
And yeah, this is coming out on a spooky Saturday. Like I said, people do call Rocky Horror a horror movie, even though there's one death really, and that's the main. Like, there's nothing truly scary, but I guess it's the uncomfortableness of it all.
But
To where,
it's got Halloween vibes though.
oh yeah,
Like something
like
about it is very Halloweenish.
see, that's the way I've always watched it. Like, I don't see Tim Curry as, oh, he's cross dressing. It's like, that's who he is and what he is. And that's scary in and of itself, what he's doing. He's the
Oh
mad scientist. He's he's Dr. Frankenstein in that universe. He's making a person to sleep with, and it doesn't work out, and he gets mad. But so, yeah, I looked at him as like, oh, he's the Frankenstein scientists, and that's so it does. I don't know what people would even label it like. I guess it's not just horror, maybe horror musical or suspense horror. I don't know. There's so many words, but we're doing it part of Spooky Saturday because it does have some scary stuff to it.
And it's hard to define really what it is. That's why it's like
Yeah.
kind of watch it for themselves because it's like it's just kind of weird, you know. It's unique and it's like one of a kind, really, you know. They can redo it, but it's probably just it's not gonna have that, you know, that same feel because remakes always suck usually. So
I will say I did see shock treatment on YouTube, the full version in a couple places. Um, I'm not going to condone it because I don't know if it's legally on there or not, but
yeah,
you can always rent it off of most places. When I was doing some back research for this, like places like Amazon Prime, I think had it. At least I know Rocky Horror, but yeah, look it up, and even if it's a two or three, $4 rent, check these movies out. I don't think you'll be disappointed.
I mean, isn't it like is it not like where you can rent it on YouTube?
I didn't press any buttons to see, but when I was just seeing who looking up reviews, there was a full version or two that didn't look like it cost anything, but I don't recommend that because I don't know if that's legal. But
Oh no,
um,
okay. Oh, you can. I think you can rent it. So it's like I don't know, $2.99. Rent it for 48 hours. That ain't bad, y'all. That's pretty
I,
good.
yeah, check Amazon Prime, like Google Play sometimes has movies, you never know. Um, I'm trying to think places maybe like Tubi or Vudu.
Hmm.
And again, YouTube usually now YouTube's gotten a lot better with their movie options and being able to do it. So
Hmm. Well, I mean, right now is the best time to watch movies because we're all stuck inside right now, guys. So we could all just
yeah,
watch movies and you know, see stuff you never seen before. You know.
and come back and like tell us what you think. Any video with us, give a comment, say, hey, because you recommended it, I went and checked it out, and hey, it was great, thumbs up, or didn't jive with me, thumbs down.
Also,
Criticism is personal, so
give us like recommended movies, and me and Chubbs will watch them. You know, we're down to watch anything. Um,
almost I say almost anything.
oh
There's
yeah,
some stuff.
and there might be some, but you know, for the most part, we'll probably watch them. You know, they're not too crazy, maybe not too controversial. You know, maybe a little bit.
Hey, if we reviewed Phantom of the Paradise. That's a very acquired taste, but we both love it. So
Mhm.
that kind of says like me and you, we will check out almost anything, and even like shock treatment where it's not as enjoyable. I still had a great time when I see it.
Yeah, you could just
It's not
dance.
boring. It's not there's always something to look at. They hide Easter eggs throughout all these movies to other
Yeah,
movies.
yeah. Oh, the Phantom video didn't come out yet. That comes out on Thursday, so we gotta tell
Well,
them.
okay, go ahead.
Are you guys home? You want me to do
Oh,
it?
I'll do it if you want.
You do it.
Um,
You're the man.
okay. Wait, it's your show, but I'm because your acts. Okay, our next is it. So it's the next theater Thursday, right?
Hmm.
Okay, our next theater Thursday. Hannah and I are going to give our reaction and review to another '70s classic, Phantom of the Paradise, which is an interesting look on the Phantom of the Opera type story, but it's got its own story and its own heart, and it's come see. I won't give anything away about how we feel about it, but if you heard of it or if you haven't, especially, come check that out this Thursday coming up, Theater Thursday.
Yeah, I think it's the best movie in the world. So you guys have to watch.
In the whole world.
Yeah, it's the best. So you guys all gotta watch it.
I I don't know about the entire planet, but it's
I
up there
don't.
for me.
I don't know what like other movies on it. Whatever. I think it's the best.
Well, it's
I
that's
give it
a
10 out of 10.
somebody's personal taste. I mean, my favorite movie, and I guess the whole world, if you want to put it that way, is Weird Science, and that's just
Well, see, you got your favorites too.
mhm.
So go watch Weird Science. Go watch Phantom. and then come back in and watch us talk about it.
Well, we're me and Max are planning to do the we call it the Weird Science Universe, and that means because in that movie, Robert Downey Jr. of Iron Man fame is in that movie, and he goes on to he's in another movie called Back to School, and it's a big connection, but it's funny that whole universe, kind of like the John Hughes universe, where like the Breakfast Club is the same people in different movies. We love those connections, and so do me and you. Where this
Hmm.
is a straight. This tonight is a straight connection because it's the same people. But we love where there's even an Easter egg in a movie about another movie. One good example is Jason in Friday 13th. Jason Goes to Hell. The Necronomicon, the Book of the Dead from Evil Dead, is in that movie. And those are awesome Easter eggs, great connections.
Hmm.
So
Oh,
just putting it out there.
they called out the Rat Pack. Them those '80s people, those people
Uh,
that
the
sing movies.
That's the Brat Pack, yes.
Is it the I'm like the
The Rat Pack was Sammy Davis Jr. and Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, that's where the name came from. Like they said, this is a new generation. They called them the Brat Pack. They weren't really teenagers by
They
the
were
time they
like
got big, but
they were like 30, but they played like 15-year-olds a movie.
no, not in the
That's what
beginning.
that's what a lot of them did. A lot of those people are like 25, 30, and they're like playing like
No.
kids and stuff.
Um, if you go look at like Pretty in Pink and Breakfast Club, they may have been in their early 20s at the most. Anthony Michael Hall was literally like 16 when he did some of those movies. Now, like people like Emilio Estevez, I think were older, and Judd Nelson,
No,
but I
for
don't think they were in their 30s.
Michael J. Fox was like 25 when he did Teen Wolf. He was not a teen in that
Well,
movie.
his first movie was Midnight Madness, by the way.
I'm just saying he wasn't a teen though.
No, but you even now they have 20, 30-year olds playing high school students. Now they're getting better with that, but
I mean,
yeah, they
maybe, I don't know. I think you know, there could be a reason to that. Like some things, it's like, oh, they're underage, we can't have them do this. So maybe that's why they get adult.
oh,
You know,
you're right because a lot of that is nudity. You can't
yeah.
put a 17-year-old girl topless. So
Hmm. So
you
they gotta
hire
have,
the 25-year-old.
hmm they gotta have,
Mainly horror movies.
yeah, they gotta have adults do that stuff. Because that ain't right. Nobody needs to see the kids.
No, they don't need and horror movies where you're showing death, like you don't want to show a 16-year-old being killed. You can
Well,
hire a 26-year-old, but that's the
there was a movie I used to watch. It was like called Teen Witch.
I
And I
know Teen Witch.
used to watch that when I was younger, and I didn't realize that all those were adults that were playing kids. Because whenever I was their age, I was like, how come they got giant boobs and like they look like that? I don't look like that. And then it's like, oh, because they're like 30 or something. It's like, I was like, okay, that makes sense. You know, because
That
they were
was
all, you know,
that was the girl with the long red hair, right?
yeah. I
I
mean,
forgot her name, but I like that movie.
I don't remember her name. I just remember the movie.
No, that was a good one.
I'm
But
gonna be the most popular girl.
we'll
You
have
like?
to.
We need to do a review on that one. That one's a good one.
That's what I was about to say. Like, or all kind of witch related stuff, like Sabrina the Teenage Witch, which got a new Netflix release. It's a
Oh,
little different, but and then Teen Witch and Charmed as witches, and but some are very good outlooks on it where it's not just an evil thing like the movie The Craft.
the new
So
Sabrina looks scary, dude. It's like, what? This ain't the
it,
Sabrina I know.
I saw 2 or 3 episodes, and like the old show was, yeah, she could do magic, and that her going to high school, what hijinks are going to happen. This one is there's a coven trying to get her to join, and they're killing people, etc. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's not like they didn't need to go that far, and they did the same thing with Riverdale, where Archie's supposed to be, run of the mill group of guys and girls, And
Hmm.
then that one starts off with murder and stuff. It's like, what are y'all doing, man? So
Yeah, they take
that
in innocent stuff, they make it not innocent.
did you watch any of Riverdale?
Mm, mm-mm. I've like seen
Don't.
the trailer. I wasn't really. I don't really like WB type of series, to be honest. It's not.
Oh, those are Netflix. That's not
Oh,
WB.
it's like a WB type of series. I'm not really into that. Well, it's just got that feel to it, like something that I wouldn't watch.
Well, that's the problem. It should be a WB feel, but like Archie, and this is spoilers, it's in the first episode, but Archie's like sleeping with one of his teachers. So they don't, it's not like, let's go down and get a burger at the milk shop like it should be.
I read the
It's,
comics. They never did that. They never got.
I don't know. There's a comic, and Max owns it. It's Punisher goes to Riverdale, like, and hangs out with Archie and them. And even in there, nobody dies or anything. This, it's very morbid, and that's my problem. Veronica and Betty make out in the first episode. It's really weird and uncalled for.
They don't even like each other.
That's
They're not
that's
gonna.
kind of the point.
They're not gonna make out. They're fighting over Archie.
I know. And Zach from Zach and Cody is Jughead. It's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, I know he was in that. What is he in?
Cole Sprouse is the one of the twins from Zach and Cody.
Yeah, they're like my age. Did you know that?
I knew they were older, but I wasn't sure exact. But
I thought they were
um,
younger than me, but I guess like we were born the same year.
they look young.
Well,
Um,
yeah, I thought they were younger than me.
you had seen because I showed you some videos from My Chemical Romance, right?
Hmm.
You would think that those guys are probably in their early 30s, right?
Um, yeah, like I guess they look
Okay.
like around my age.
The lead singer, Gerard Way, is my age at 42.
Oh, really? Well,
It's just surprising. Like, you never know. Like, he looks young.
yeah, that's why I mean, you can't really tell like with people's ages and stuff.
But they did make a big habit of hiring 20 somethings, 30 somethings to play high school people in movies.
Well,
And they're getting out of it. But,
I guess we kind of discussed why they probably did that, though. Some things they just can't get away with a kid.
well, but they are getting better with child actors where you have like 5 to 9 year olds out acting grown ups. Like, it's really cool.
Yeah.
Like
I
Pet
think,
Cemetery or something.
yeah. Oh, that new one?
Both. Even the old one, the kid was very young and did a very good job.
I mean, there's just some kids that are good at acting.
Oh no, I agree, but they have very strict laws about working those kids. They have to have a teacher on call, and they have breaks very frequent or whatnot. So
That's why they like
it's
twins,
nice.
because the twins could rotate.
Yeah. Hence the Olsen twins and the Zach and Cody. I call them that. I'm sorry, that's not their real names, but they went Big Daddy with Adam Sandler, but it was only one of them. And
It was only one of them. They didn't rotate with them either.
no, I'm saying, I meant they use both to be one character in the movie.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's
And
like Parent Trap. Except Parent Trap was one person playing two. It's like the opposite. Whatever. I don't know what I'm talking about.
no, luckily there's no Lindsay Lohan twin out there.
You don't like Lindsay Lohan?
Not now. I liked her before, but she got a little weird.
That's why you gotta talk about Lindsay like that.
Up, okay. Have you seen Machete, the movie?
Mm-mm.
Okay. If you watch that, she gets topless and makes out with her mom. So she made some weird choices later on, but up until Herbie the Love Bug,
Real
fine.
mom?
No, no, in the movie, like
Oh,
she's yeah. But yeah, up until Herbie the Love Bug remake with her, that's fine. She's fine. But she made some weird and in real life she made some weird choices, but that's on her. Oh,
well,
Mean Girls was fine. I like
Mean
that movie.
Girls.
What?
You love Mean Girls?
it's a good movie. Who's the main actress on the Mean Girl side? She was like 30 playing a high schooler. She's famous now. Dang it, the blonde.
I don't know. She's in the
Yeah.
Notebook. So
Yeah, that girl. Yeah. Is it Rachel McAdams? No.
I don't know why we're talking about Lindsay.
Well, no, I mean, we got from twins to that, but that's just a
I know,
rant.
like we're talking about Rocky Horror, now we're like we talking about Lindsay. So,
Wow.
I
We're,
I
we're,
guess off subject. I'm random.
no, but I think we hit all the great points, and there's plenty more we could have talked about, but there's so much in those movies to enjoy and to love, and we gave high marks. We highly recommend people check it out, even if you know of it, saw it, check it out again, even if it's been a while. I think there's always room for Rocky Horror, and at least check out Shock Treatment to see what we're talking about if you didn't know about it.
Yeah, you might like it. I don't know. It's a acquired taste too, but you might love it. You know, you never
Yep.
you never know till you try it. Everybody's got different tastes, but these are opinions, and we like both of the movies. So yeah.
So there you go. There's our whole outlook for our spooky Saturday. We gave you the Rocky Horror Picture Show, Shock Treatment, Circle, and yeah. So
Oh, and we got merch too. So
yeah, check.
the merch will be in the description. You want this shirt with
You
this?
can be you can be part of the show.
Yeah, you can have a spooky Saturday shirt, and then you can wear it whenever you watch our video.
That's right.
Stay spooky with us. All right. You think that we covered it all?
I think so. So till next time. Good night, everybody.
It'll be here next week. Bye, y'all. Let me.